And if I am not the traveler, where then do I belong? If I am only flesh and blood, from where comes this song? For you are the music, you are the golden key. You are the answer, Jai Guru Dev, Guruji, Guruji.
Hello, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. I am in Sydney, down under Australia. So for me, it's the middle of the day. And good to see you, and thank you for coming. So, who is in? What a question. What a question. Until 89, beginning of 1990, the question that was most used and in between sannyasin and in the Zen tradition was, who am I? And then out of the blue, one morning during a discourse in the series Yehudi Mystic Rose, Osho, in my understanding, in my memory, at some point said, well, what a stupid question to ask, who am I? Of course, I am myself. That's it, done. So now the new question is, who is in? And it was a shock. It was a shock for everybody, because we have done that work with the Who Am I, and it's been done for more than 500 years. And suddenly the master, with his masterly touch, decided to turn completely the whole picture. Who is in? And is a huge shift to move from the question, who am I, to the question, who is in? But before we go there, I just want to frame one moment the questions, what are called the existential questions. You have heard probably, and I did many times, not only Osho, but pretty much every master say, you are not an island. Which means simply you don't exist in separation. However, in day-to-day life, as we identify with personality, we are an island. We live in isolation. We live with boundaries around us. We live with a defense system. We live with opinions, points of view, concepts, and so on. And at the center of this island, there is a fortress. And that fortress is what is called the ego identity. The idea that I am all these things, that I am defined by what I experience, how I act, my behaviors, my past, my story, my connections, my family, and blah, blah, blah. So taking this picture into account, already 500-600 years ago, Zen masters decided, how do we break this delusion that we exist in separation, that we exist as a limited identity based on our past and our conditioning, and we operate from there. So they devised this, what they are called koans, questions that cannot be answered through our past experience, through our minds, through what we already know. They can only be answered by taking a jump into I don't know, into the unknown of this moment. So they devised strange questions like, tell me what was your face before your mother was born, or why Buddha went to the east, or what is the sound of one hand clapping, things like this, which are meant to drive us crazy, to drive us nuts, so that we can struggle with all our beliefs and ideas. And in these struggles, what happens is that ideas and beliefs and concepts and values start falling apart. Within the big family of the koans, this question that cannot be answered, there are some special questions which are called the existential questions. The existential questions or the existential koans are very few. There are, I think, 17 or 18, something like that. And the two most fundamental are, tell me who you are and tell me who is in. And then the others are, what is love, what is trust, what is beauty, what is another, what is life, what is truth, and so on. Questions that we all consciously or unconsciously keep asking all the time. Like when there is a crisis in our relationship, we ask ourselves, am I in love or not? Do I really know what love is? Do I really know what trust is? When we are in a beautiful environment, and we have the experience of delight and joy, and we experience beauty, what is this thing that I'm experiencing in this moment? So these questions, doesn't matter if we are aware of it or not, they are very deep currents in our unconscious that keep flowing all the time. And yet, between all these existential questions, there is a fundamental difference between the question, who am I? And the question, what is love, what is trust, what is beauty, and others. And the difference is this, is that the questions, who am I and who is in, address directly the fortress in the middle of the island, the sense of identity, the who, not the what. What is love? What is trust? What is life? What is beauty? These are whats. But the other two questions, who am I and who is in, they address directly who is the one who is experiencing everything. So in this moment, we are sharing, and this is the beauty of technology, we are sharing the here now. You are somewhere, I don't know where, and even though we are theoretically miles apart, and for most of you, I am your future, and you are my past, because you exist in maybe 17 hours difference between me and Amritanand, America, yeah? I'm theoretically 17 hours ahead. But the reality is that we all exist in the same here now. And in this here now, right in this moment, our energies are flowing. We are connected. No, I can feel you, no, and you can feel me. I can talk to you, you can hear me. There is the self is not limited to this physical body and this dimension of time and space. Is not. Otherwise, I would not be able to feel you. And I do. And I know that you're feeling me. I can see it in your face. Sometimes you smile, sometimes you go like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, oh, sorry. I said, fuck, oh my God, I should not. Yeah, I don't care. I do. So we continuously relate to each other 24 hours a day, even when we sleep. We relate to the universe. There is no way that we can be islands. There is no way that we can be limited by our physical body. It's not possible. It's not who you are, who I am, who we are. This is not real. What is real is that we are limitless. And yet, within that immensity, there is a sense of individuality, of existing as a unique manifestation of this consciousness. So this is what the koans, the questions, who am I and who is in, are. They are the challenge and the invitation to go beyond the what, beyond the identification with this experience and that feeling and that thought and that idea and that sensation, and move towards who is the experiencer, who is the one that right in this moment is experiencing everything, is experiencing your body, is experiencing your feelings, is experiencing your senses, is experiencing whatever is happening inside of you and around you. So this is the immensity of these questions, which they appear to be the three words, who is in? And yet, when you go into it and you start moving away from the identification with the individual singular objects, you start realizing that you are a mystery. You live in a mystery that continuously unfolds. So this is what these questions are about, is allowing yourself to recognize your uniqueness, and as you manifest day after day, moment after moment, as you interact, as you breathe, as you eat, as you love, as you meditate. And to do that, we don't need to do anything special. We don't need to have any particular position, any particular understanding. You simply close your eyes and start noticing who is experiencing this, who is closing the eyes, who is breathing, who is listening. So I assume that most of you are meditators, and maybe my assumption is wrong. However, I will assume that. And when you meditate, this is the usual movement. First, we become witnesses of what is our experience. So if in this moment I'm experiencing my left hand moving, I'm experiencing the temperature of my body, I'm experiencing the images that come into my eyes, I'm experiencing the light in the window, I'm experiencing sitting. So I'm experiencing objects one after the other. So we do dynamic meditation. First stage, we experience the breath. We go right into the breath. Then we do the catharsis and we experience tears and screaming and laughing and movement. Then we go into the who, and we go, okay, who, and the belly. So we experience objects. We experience events. And then we move to the phase where there is nothing, no movement, frozen. And that's the place where we can switch and ask, but who is experiencing all this? Who is aware of the temperature? Who is aware of the movement? Who is aware of the stillness? So we switch from the what to the who. And that's part of every meditation. Basically, if you describe any meditation, is witnessing the objects of experience, and then is called witnessing the witness. So becoming aware of the one who is experiencing. So this is what these two koans point us to. And I want to remind you that when Osho was giving groups in Pune 1, basically everybody had to go into this work. Was a group that at that time was called Enlightenment Intensive, and now it's called Awareness Intensive. And Osho pretty much was giving it to everybody, because sooner or later, yes, we can recognize, okay, I've been living on an island and the island is a story. But at some point, we need to look at the fortress. We need to look at that identity. How come I still believe that I am restricted, that I am small? Because nobody here is born to be small. Life is so generous. Each one of us is a unique manifestation, and is your job, my job, everybody's job to actually embody this uniqueness, embody the beauty, the freedom, the immensity of every manifestation. And you are one of that, and I am one of that. So this is what this work is about. And I love it. I just love it. It's so pregnant every moment. Yeah. Every single moment. And you might realize this moment is not the same moment of a moment ago, and will not be the same moment of a moment after. So everything keeps changing, but you are aware of all this. You do not change. Your awareness is a field that continuously mirrors all the change. So this is what this is about, the koan.
So who is in similar to the witnessing self that we come across in a lot of times?
The who is in is beyond the witnessing self, in the sense that the witnessing self is also part of mind. But the moment that you go beyond the identification with even the witnessing, then you end up in complete open mystery and space, where the famous void, which is full of everything. So don't get scared about the word void, but void is a strange word because it feels like, oh my God, there is nothing. Yeah, there is nothing and there is everything. So it's like absolute abundance and richness. Yeah. So the who is in is actually what outcome is an extra step after who am I? Because you probably have heard that everybody knows the answer to the koan, tell me who you are. Because every single master has said that. Somebody said, I am that. Somebody says, just this. And somebody said, God in the Bible says, I am that I am. So the answer is, I am. Without any qualification, without any definition. It's pure Am-ness. Yeah? Osho talks about it. Other masters talk about it. So many people, most people, they know, I am, that's it. However, who is this I that says I am? So when you work with the koan who is in, when you go into the koan who is in, even that I dissolves completely. So there is no identity anymore. There is no sense of individual identity. And that's the great step that Osho gave us. And he was very clear. He said many times, when you reach that place of Am-ness, that's not the end. There is more. So then out of the blue, he came up with this koan, tell me who is in. And basically that's a revolution. That's a complete revolution. Like there is no I don't know. I struggled with it. I struggled with it for years. So that to be clear, that you don't, I don't want to make it, oh my God, it was so simple. No, it was not simple because I was very attached to the koan, who am I? Because I am. Like I am. No, like it felt grandiose in a way, beautiful but grandiose. But then when the koan within came in, I was like, wait a minute, uh, in, out, who, in, was like, yeah, I couldn't really deal with it. But then little by little, just going inside, dropping effort, dropping a goal of reaching anywhere, letting go of the idea that I knew how to go in. Everything was like unknown. And little by little, something started kind of opening up. So, first of all, the difference between inside and outside disappeared completely. There is no difference between inside and outside. So, there is no question of in. So, I was left only with who. And when I was really going into the who, I didn't find anybody. It was as simple as that. There is nobody in. But that was an experience, was not an understanding, was something completely different. And the paradox is that when that experience happens, experience disappears because there is no subject and there is no object. Everything goes, so there is no separation, no distinction, no points of reference. Now, before I stop for a little bit, one question that often comes up is, can we live day-to-day life from that place? Which is a very good question, because I cannot go to the bank and say nobody would like to open an account because they say you are out of your brain. Yeah. So yes, we can live from a place of complete surrender to the mystery. And yet, in that complete surrender to the mystery, there is also the intelligence and the efficiency of the capacity to live through a structure of survival, which is personality. In fact, at that point, personality is not an enemy. It's not someone that we need to destroy, someone that we need to correct. It's something that we use consciously, like we use a car or a pair of shoes or a certain suit or clothes, because that's what we need to navigate in day-to-day life. So our relationship with our personality becomes very friendly. No, it's completely included. It's something that we use, but we don't believe anymore, I am that. We know that we are the mystery and the immensity, and the structure is just a little island with a little fortress in between, in the middle, that we need to, to go to the bank, to go to work, and when we don't need it, we are not there. We don't go there. So there is a capacity to move in and out of our limitations in a very efficient way. Like when Osho was giving discourse, he had to use language. And language is personality. Language is limited. Language is concepts. Language is structure. So he had to use structure and personality and judgments and comparison and values, because that's how personality can communicate. But he also kept saying over and over again, I'm just talking to entertain you. What is happening is really happening under my words, which is true, which was very clear. So the mystery was coming through under the guise of a discourse. You think Osho was giving a damn about a discourse? I am pretty sure that he didn't. And yet he was a magician, so he would use words and and then you go, I don't know you, but I would go like, ah. And something would relax inside so much that the real thing was coming through. So this is what we learn. We learn mastery. We don't become masters, but we learn mastery, where mastery is the coming together of the immensity of the mystery and the limitation of the structure. We can use that consciously. And that's beautiful because then there is no inner conflict. And the good news is that when there is no inner conflict, there is no outer conflicts. See, that's the miracle. When you don't have conflicts with yourself, you will not find conflicts with other people because you see everyone is unique. Everyone is absolutely unique. So you go like, wow, look at that and feel that, even though they are different. That does not mean that you have to agree or disagree. You simply recognize diversity and you honor diversity completely. So if you have any questions, please, or whatever, you want to share something, you're most welcome. And then I'll tell you a little bit about a more personal thing with Osho. And remember that every question is a good question. There are no bad questions. Claude, no, but well, you're not Claude, but
Yeah, go ahead, Samir.
Yes. So in the question, who is in?
yeah.
I'm actually I'm asking about the technique. So do we just speak everything around the fortress? Like my ego is experiencing dreaming right now, dreaming of tattoos. So just speak it out until there is nothing.
Okay. So this was a big step in this understanding. Like until 1973, these questions were asked sitting in front of a wall. Yeah. So it would take a very long time, asking the wall, tell me who you are. Yeah. Then in 1973, a Zen master actually in America asked himself, how can I speed up this process? So he came with this idea. What about if instead of sitting against the wall, I sit in front of another human being so that we can ask each other? And it was magical because when we sit in front of each other, there is a circle of energy that start turning. Yeah. So everything becomes so much more fast and powerful and deep. So then the Satori process and the awareness intensive process were invented, where one participant sits in front of another participant and they ask 5 minutes each, tell me who is in, and the one has 5 minutes to answer and vice versa. Now, in the beginning, because it's based on communication, and one understanding is that a lot of the unconscious is a build-up of material that has not been communicated, expressed. Yeah. So in the beginning, pretty much every participant is really kind of, if you want, vomiting out whatever are their ideas about, okay, I am a doctor and my family comes from here I'm dreaming about tattoo and things like that. Yeah, these are all what. These are all objects. And when I facilitate this retreat, for the first half a day, I let people really run with this because they need to release that energy that has been accumulating. Then, usually in the beginning of the second day, when we have an open session, I remind people that the question, the koan, is who, not what. It's not what is in or what are you, but who. And everybody goes like, whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? So then there is an invitation to turn the attention inside towards the subject. So you can do it in many different ways. Like for me, for example, it's really about, okay, I can feel my hand moving in this moment here, but who is aware of the hand moving? I ask myself. So then the moment that I ask this question, my attention goes from the hand that is moving to myself. So there is going out, coming back in. And now I hear my voice, but who is hearing the voice and come back in? So we start having a movement that goes from the object to the subject, from the object to the subject. And that starts becoming easier and easier. The more we do it, the easier it becomes. And at some point, you simply come to a very simple realization. And the realization is that, wow, the objects are changing all the time. But this who is here all the time too. It doesn't change. So then, you start getting kind of interested. Say, wait a minute, but then who is this who? Yeah. So there is once they asked a Zen master, what is enlightenment? And the master answered, deep intimacy. So this is about intimacy. Is becoming intimate with yourself. Is coming closer and closer to this subjectivity, to this who. To allow yourself to have a direct experience of this who. And the direct experience means that you don't know through your past, through your ideas, through your concepts, through your different medias. You taste yourself directly. And of course, Samir, you are the only one that can taste yourself directly. I can't taste you directly, but you can. So that's the beauty of it, that the moment that you find that place in yourself, you don't need anybody to tell you who you are. You don't need, you know that nobody can actually answer your own question. You are the only one that can do that. And that becomes so, yeah, so liberating, because finally you recognize authority is not out there. Truth is not out there. It's right here. I am the truth, and I can recognize this truth. So the love for the master takes a completely different dimension, because you go like, oh my God, thank you that you took me to the gate and you didn't tell me how I should be or I should not be, and gave me the opportunity to actually find myself. And that's what it's about. You find yourself. And when you find yourself, you're home. Now, do we always stay at home? No. We keep losing home, coming back, losing home, coming back, and that's part of the journey. Again, when I heard Osho talk about Satori, he was saying the first Satori is accidental. You find yourself at home and you go like, whoa, what's going on here? Oh, this is who I am. This is me. Yeah. But it happens accidentally, because you're asking, you're putting your energy, you're putting your passion, your love, your curiosity. But then you realize also, well, actually, if I ask myself, if I stop for a moment and I really go in to ask, something happens. So you start recognizing that you have a particular unique way to come back home. And it's your way. Nobody can tell you how it goes. So you start recognizing, okay, if I do this, if I do, for example, for me, for years, I have never been a good sitting meditator. I couldn't sit. I needed to move. For me, movement has been my way to actually become still, to find stillness. So for other people, it doesn't work that way. So you find your own way, and then there is the second satori. And the second satori is when you learn that you can go in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Yeah. And then there is the third satori, which is samadhi, where you are in all the time. I talk theoretically because I'm not there yet. But in some moments, I can stay at home for a very, very long time and go out and come back. And I love it. Actually, I really love the fact that I can go out, I can be my personality. Sometimes I can even be an asshole, you know. And yeah, I can be angry, you know, I can be scared, I can be human also. And that helps me a lot also in my work. Because I am human, and I need my humanity. Yeah. So it's a journey, and it's a never-ending journey. So no rush.
One follow-up question, although
Yes.
it's little different from who is in. So when you said that we have to l- practice coming back home and practice remember who is experiencing those dreams and objects, but what happens as a um, because I was in Osho Nisarga and I was meditating every day, this remembrance was all the time, and but now I'm back in the world, and now there are actually more problems than I came to Nisarga with, so much more problem.
Sure.
And it feels like the mind is getting even louder. The when I sit and I'm trying to meditate, this has become so much loud. So do we need catharsis? Do we need to go through dynamic before who is in to make it stop?
Okay. So before I look into this question, let me tell you a short story. So one day somebody goes to visit Buddha, and it's a guy, and he says, look, I have the most fantastic family, you know, and I have a wife and a son and a daughter. And he talks about how beautiful is his wife, and how friendly and supportive she is. And then it says, well, at times she talks a little bit too much, and she wears things that, so he's kind of first, you know, yeah, she's beautiful, and then he starts putting her down, and Buddha listens, and then he goes, thanks God that I have my daughter is the pearl in my eyes, and she's beautiful, eh? However, she cannot find a husband, so it's a little bit of a problem. And again, same story. But my son is really a jewel. He's fantastic. He helps me everywhere. Unfortunately, he's a gambler. So he has that thing. So then he says, Buddha, look, as you can see, I have so many problems in my life. Can you help me? And Buddha says, I have no idea. And the guy gets a little bit pissed, you know, and says, wait a minute, you are the awakened one, you are in touch with God, you are enlightened, and you cannot help me with my problems. Buddha says, well, I'm sorry, I cannot help you with your problems. And the guy gets really angry. And Buddha says, look, let me tell you something. In my 30 plus years of teaching, I realized that at the end of the day, every human being has 23 problems. One problem disappears, but another one appears. So 2 problems are resolved and 2 more come. So at the end of the day, 23 problems everywhere, everybody. And the guy says, oh, God, for a great thing. So what do I do with my 23 problems? And Buddha says, I have no clue. However, I can help you with the 24th. And the guy says, oh, the 24th? And what is that? And Buddha says, well, I can help you to drop the idea that you will never have problems. That's life. Life as events, situations, transformation. What we call time is nothing else but the continuous change in life. So forget the idea that you will not have these changes. However, you can take them as problems or not. And that's where your freedom is. Otherwise, of course, there are events. Things change, things move. You learn to deal with it, but you deal from being in touch with the subject. The subject does not look at life as a problem. The subject does not reject life because it should be different. The subject says life is exactly what it is. And in that surrender becomes very efficient. And that's what personality does not understand. Personality is there trying to be efficient and is like a donkey. You know, and the intelligence of being is like a spaceship, you know, instead of a donkey. So you move very fast and very efficiently and very specifically. So this is practice. Now, do you need catharsis? Yes, sometimes you do. However, catharsis is not something that has to become a habit. It's something that you use consciously when you feel I need to release energy, move energy, allow my system to purge, you know, old stuff. Yes, definitely. And you need also the opposite of catharsis, which means the capacity to contain energy. Because how do I grow up? If I keep throwing my energy out, my energy field does not grow. So I need to learn that sometimes I grow up, I throw out energy, other times I keep holding, so that I get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. The energy field is something that we participate in consciously. Yeah. So it's both ways. Okay. Any other questions? Please jump in. Claude, are you there? Your name is not Claude. No, I mean you, but is your name Claude?
Yeah, I'm Claude.
Claude, okay.
Sorry.
Good.
Sorry, buddy. I'm Claude. No, I just want to say I'm half asleep because I'm in Paris. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, so
yes, good.
But what you're saying is it's like I think I am the wave in the ocean.
Yeah.
But I'm in the ocean, and until I think I'm a wave, I'm gonna be seasick, right?
Well, because you imagine that the wave is separated from the ocean.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No. So
obviously not. How can the wave exist without the ocean?
Yeah. So we are sick. We are just sick all the time.
Well, yes and no, in the sense that the moment that you realize that I am the ocean, it's fun to be a wave.
Yeah.
It's also fun because there is no separation between the depth and the surface, and you can actually become a great surfer. You know, in Australia,
till the shark comes.
So, you see, the waves are life. Because in life there is change. Is not everything that as the depths of the ocean. The ocean manifests, and there is the wind, and there is the the rain, and the currents under the ocean. So the waves, the way you become a wave, is fun. Sometimes it's overwhelming, definitely, and you might feel a little bit seasick. Yeah, of course. But the more you exist as the ocean and the waves, the least resistance there is, and the least resistance means also the more enjoyment and the more celebration. So this is another aspect of our Satori retreat. You learn to let go of resistance, yeah, because resistance creates separation and conflicts. Yeah, otherwise the waves are beautiful. When I go surfing, I do body surfing. I'm waiting for the waves. So that I can surrender into the waves and be taken.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. And thank you for showing up at 4 o'clock in the morning. My God.
Go ahead, Bodhi.
Yeah. Avikal, there are a lot of questions that are coming in my mind. Some you are like most of them you are answering, but again, then another question is coming up. So I just want to ask, like, how do I deal with like throwing up? Like you're saying that you throw up your energy, you waste it all, and then the capacity doesn't grow, and sometimes it grows, and then again you see that you're going down, you're leaking your energy. So like, and I try to be constant, but as you're saying, it's a wave. But something in my mind says you need to work on yourself, you need to be more or grow more in your capacity. So can you help me here, Avikal?
Okay. Do an experiment. Breathe in. Keep breathing in. Keep breathing in. Keep breathing in. And then hold it. And now breathe more in. See, this is not going to work. It's not possible. There is no perennial growth. Growth goes through peaks and valleys, expansion and contraction, expansion, and like the breath. You breathe in, you expand, you breathe out, you contract. So the art is to be total in your expansion and total in your contraction, so that you don't hold back, because you want to get completely empty and then you can be full again. But if you go like full, a little bit empty, and then, oh my God, no, I shouldn't be empty, I should keep, then immediately you reach a final point which doesn't grow anymore. So you need to learn it's not about keep increasing. It's about moving between the highs and the lows and experiencing both of them fully, so that you can actually relax into it. Because your question shows a lot of effort, talks about efforting. Efforting does not work. Efforting will not take you anywhere. I mean, of course, efforting helps in practical day-to-day things. If you need to lift a table, you might have to effort. But spiritually, it doesn't work. It's about, and again, Osho said it so many times, it's about floating. It's about flowing. It's not about, no, it's not about that. It's about flowing. How do you recognize the flow? Imagine that you are flowing in a river, yeah? Usually, and there are two sides of the river. On one river is chaos, and on the other river there is rigidity. When we don't flow and when we effort, we usually end up on one of these two sides. So we are efforting, we don't get what we want, we get very rigid and say, okay, if I effort more, if I put more intention, if I do this, if I do that, and then it gets even worse. Or we end up going in chaos. Oh my God, what's happening? I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I should have done something. These are the two modes of madness in the personality: chaotic or rigid. When we are rigid, we become very righteous. And when we are chaotic, we become very demanding. So you want to start noticing, how do I make myself rigid? Or how I go into being chaotic and I stop flowing? Because when you flow, you go in the flow, and sometimes, yeah, you might be a little bit chaotic, but you don't get attached to it. Or you get a little bit rigid, but you don't get attached to it. You keep going back into the middle of the river where you can flow. Now, of course, when you flow, you're not in control, my friend. And that's the rub. Yes. Body. You're not in, when we flow, we are not in control. And that's where we go like, I want to be in control. Yeah. And that's the learning. That's what surrender is about. For me, I have moved to another place which is not surrender, I call it submission. Submission is, in my experience, even a total place of completely bowing down to the intelligence of the God, the existence, being, call it any way you want. I don't know anything. I can't change anything. I don't need to change anything because everything changes by itself all the time. I can participate, I can enjoy, I can celebrate, I can share, but I don't need to control. And that has taken 75 years. But I am very stubborn. So it's like, sorry. I had to hit my head against the wall many, 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 many times. And if I was not hitting my head, I was lucky enough that my partners, my lovers, my friends would just hit my head. And of course, Osho. So I want to share this little story about me and Osho. In 1988, 87, in October, when Osho was back in Pune for a few months, I went back to Pune, and at that time I was working as a freelance photographer. So I brought him a picture of a drop on a leaf, and I gave it to Nilam, and Nilam gave it to Osho. And then Nilam called me after 3 days and said, Osho has kept your pictures on his bedtime table for the last 3 days, and he sends you this message. And the message was, he wants you to take a picture of a drop exactly in the moment when it starts falling. And I went like, okay, how am I going to do that? Because technically the finger is too slow, so I kept thinking about, okay, I need a beam or something. But of course, in India in 87, forget about laser beams, no way. So then, at that time, I was also a guard in his garden. So I asked to be a guard in the night shift from midnight to 6 in the morning, so that I could be in the garden when all these drops were falling. So I was sitting there, bah, 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 you know, like a mad, trying to catch it. And then at some point, I just saw it. I just saw it. You know, a drop and the leaf together. They're like two lovers, completely merged. And when they start separating, they start trembling. There is a trembling that happens, and then the drops falls. So I say, aha, I got it. So I took the picture of the drop exactly in the moment when it started falling, because it was trembling. And I brought it to Nilam. And after one day, Nilam came to me and said, okay, Osho says, now you take pictures of him. So that was my gift. Yeah. But what was the teaching? The teaching was attachment. How do I deal with attachment? How do I deal with separation? How do I deal with my unwillingness to feel the trembling because it's painful, because it's scary? How do I surrender to that trembling and to the vulnerability? I've been working on that for 40 years, every single day, because it's a never-ending process of nurturing. That was my gift in my first koan. Yeah, how do I deal with my fear of my vulnerability? Yeah, what an amazing thing, you know. Like, my God, it was such a blessing. Yeah. And in fact, my name, Samarpan, Avikal, Samarpan means surrender. And avikal means calm, without much fuss, without doing much, just calm, surrender. Thank you, Bodhi. I don't know where we are now. Okay, we are at 1 hour. Any other questions? We take, oh, Upchara, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question that has to do with how in this practice we use language. Okay?
Yes.
From my own experience, after all these years, I know that in this practice, language is an ally. So when I am in the inquiry with the intention of having a direct experience, I have the experience that my speaking does not come from the same place as my everyday blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Okay. I can hear it in my voice. I can sense it in the body. Now, as I run this practice with people, I find myself bumping into the resistance that some people have. They associate language with it's the mind. And so they are, and they are reticent. They say, oh, every time I speak, it's just the mind. This practice has made no meaning because it's just the mind. And how do we, maybe it's not possible, how do we transmit to another that there is that difference in how we use language? It is not the mind in this practice. That's my question.
Okay. Well, first of all, what's wrong with the mind? See, the assumption in whoever makes a statement like that is that the mind is something wrong, is something that should not exist, that we need to destroy, which is absolutely absurdity. First of all, because there is no definition of what mind is. And for example, you talk with a Zen master and says everything is mind. Because for a Zen master, mind is all there is. You know, the complete picture, the complete story, the complete past and present and future. So first thing is, like, most people, when they make that statement, they simply show that they have a preconceived idea about what mind is. Therefore, they don't really go in. Because the moment that you go in and you start looking at how you use language, you recognize very fast that language is a trap that we set for ourselves as we use it in a particular way. So if I have a certain ideas about what mind is, that become a trap. If I have a certain idea about what fear is, or what meditation is, or what enlightenment is, that becomes a trap. Otherwise, language is like an empty cup. What you put in there, you can put concepts, ideas, past, or you can put your presence. And when language becomes a natural, spontaneous, immediate, not filtered expression of your presence, is a completely different experience. In fact, language becomes so much simpler, because in a way, we don't need millions of concepts and words and definitions and justification to express who I am in this moment. What is my experience in this moment? So it becomes easier and easier. At the same time, we recognize that language has limitations. So that's why in Satori, we don't talk about, oh, you need to say what you need to say. We say you need to communicate. Communication is much more than just the words, is much more than just the language, is the temperature in your body, is the color of your face, is the spark in your eyes, is the way you move, is the intensity. It's so much more. So it is really an invitation to people to move away from the identification with the limited symbolism of words, and really start experiencing directly how a word can come close to communicate something that you are in that moment. Maybe it doesn't communicate everything, because, you need to move your hand, or you need to raise your voice, or you need to speak very softly, whatever. So that's part of becoming an artist of your presence. And this is something that I often tell people during doing Satori. Say, look, you are the most sophisticated musical instruments in existence. If you want to play a violin, you exercise every single day for hours. Can you imagine how it is to express the uniqueness of you as an individual, as this immense instrument? It's going to take practice every single day, possibly 24 hours a day. Well, 24 hours, no, because when we sleep, thanks God. However, we need to become artists of our own being. That's what life is about. We become poets and actors and painters. We paint ourselves. We paint our reality. We create contradictions and paradoxes, and we share that. So it's really an invitation to be very creative and not get stuck into the rigidity of, oh, language is fuck. That's not true. Not true. there are poets that are so unbelievable, like there is so much beauty and intelligence in one word. So, and it's not easy because some people are having investment in, obviously, in staying into a very limited structure. So you need to find out how to poke them, entice them, like sometimes kick them, so that they actually let go of it. And you can have a lot of fun, Upchara. That's the point. If you have fun, that's easy. Okay, Jupiter.
Okay, I'm practicing meditation for the last 15 years, but right
Yeah.
now I'm facing some problem like overthinking and worrying. It happens to me also. And another problem, it happens to me that when somebody hurt me, saying something offensive, I become very much emotional. So would you suggest me how to deal with these things? Thank you very much.
Well, there are different things. So I don't know exactly what does it mean for you becoming overthinking, but let me check the other side. So somebody tells you something that is critical, yeah, or I don't know what word did you use the word offensive or something like that? I don't remember. So let's say it's a criticism, yeah, and can be painful. How to deal with it? See, the moment that something hits you, already the fact that you feel that something is hitting you from outside has to do with a process that is happening inside. Let me give an example. For many, many years, people told me, Avikal, you're very arrogant. And I felt misunderstood or hurt. Sometimes I would get angry. And then little by little, I ask myself, wait a minute, why do I react to this attack? Okay. So I realized, because I did also a lot of work on that I react to an external aggression, which I feel as an aggression, because there is an internal aggression. In fact, internally, my own inner judge, what in Freudian psychology is the superego, basically was telling me the same thing. You're arrogant. Yeah. So the moment that I recognize that the attack is internal, you have disappeared. Okay. The moment that I recognize that the attack is internal, I turn in. So I'm not anymore involved with the external attack, but I recognize that I considered it an attack because there is an internal attack. And that's where you can do something. Because if you tell me that I'm arrogant, I can't do anything about what you think and what you believe. That's your freedom. But if it touches me, I can do something about my own internal attack. So I can look, wait a minute, how come I keep attacking myself internally with the belief that, with the attack that I'm arrogant? Where is it coming from? So then I start doing self-inquiry. I start doing self-inquiry and go, oh yeah, I remember, my teacher in school, in the primary school, was telling me, yeah, you are just a little arrogant fucker, whatever. No, or my older brother, or this one. And I start noticing that I'm carrying a particular program that keeps repeating that to me. You are arrogant. So I start dealing with something internal, and basically at some point I go like, do I need this? Is something that actually helps me to understand myself or not? And little by little, I let it go. Because actually, it's true. Sometimes I am arrogant. So what? See, if you know the understanding about awakening is that you are everything that you are. Everything. So sometimes I am arrogant. I don't call it arrogant anymore. I don't call it at all, but I know that energy. I know that energy and I'm okay with that. So the moment that I solve my conflict internally, you can tell me that I'm arrogant, then I stop and say, wait a minute, okay, let me find out. Do I feel I'm actually arrogant in this moment? Is there a feedback that I can use or not? If I can use it, I take it in and I look into it and I feel into it. If I don't, because I think, well, that's your point of view and you're free to have any kind of point of view because you are you, then it doesn't touch me. It doesn't do anything to me. It's like, okay, so what? Yeah? So it's really about bringing it back to yourself. If you get stuck into reacting to the other, you can stay there for years, you know, and it's definitely not helpful or nurturing. And that can be with any kind of judgment, any kind of criticism. You know, I heard Osho saying something very simple. He said, judgment, when you judge things and events, that's acceptable. Because you can say, you know, this thing works or doesn't work, or, you know, 2 by 2 is 4, it's not 5. So judgment is useful on a practical level. But you can never judge another human being. Because another human being is a completely different universe. So as judging each other, no, absolutely not. Judging things, yes. That's part of science. Science is based on judgment and comparison. But what is the sense of myself comparing with you and you comparing with me? You are you and I am myself. So in that sense, we can honor each other and respect each other. And of course, this is not how it happens in day-to-day life. But you can start with yourself. You can start by honoring the fact that you are everything that you are, and that your inner judge is just an old program that your parents and your school put in there. When you need it, you use it. When you don't need it, you don't use it. All right. Okay. We have one more person, which is Suganda. Hello, Suganda. In the meantime, if you guys look in the chat, I put at the beginning a little thing from one modern philosopher, which Osho loved, Ludwig Wittgenstein, which says, if we take eternity to mean not everlasting temporal duration, but a moment without time, then eternal life belongs to those who live in the present, which is simple and beautiful. Suganda, did you write your message? Okay. I'm losing interest in objects and I feel a little bit disorientated. Welcome in the family. Well, yes, I understand that. And that's part of the journey. When you start more and more bringing your attention to the subject, one of the effects is that you recognize that, yeah, there are so many objects and most of them, they're really not interesting. or fascinating. They don't know. But at the same time, though, it happens also the opposite. That more and more, what you experience is not an existence made of objects. Is an existence made of presence and consciousness. So somehow everything becomes so much more alive, so much more real, as there is no distance or separation between the subject and the object. There is a merging. So it's a strange paradoxical process, because at the same time there is, oh my God, what if there are no objects, what's going on here, like, okay, life becomes a little bit boring. But at the same time, it happens the opposite, which is actually not the opposite. It's just another way of experiencing what is without objects, is pure presence. So that's part of the journey. Yeah. So, but yet, yes, I see the spiritual path as a lot of the spiritual path as a path in the learning of letting go. And letting go means a lot also letting go of objects. For example, a big object that we need to learn to let go is my personal history. Because personality is completely or nearly completely based on identification with I am who I am because I have this personal history, this family, this nation, this schooling, this story, these lovers, this relationship. So it's looking at the past to define the present. So that's an object. Now, are we attached to the personal history? I would say that yes, we are attached. And there is nothing wrong in being attached as long as I realize that I'm not that. Personal history is beautiful, and we all have it. And we have memories, and memories are real. And at the same time, they have to do with the past. So if I believe that I am that my present slips away unless I'm aware of it. So it's a process of letting go of objects, which makes life quite more simple. Indica.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Let me put you a moment in speaker view so that I can see you better. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. My question is that I am disturbed by the when injustice happened to me, particularly with people who is close to me. When that just say example property dividing not happen in one person, one family member tries to do all the gimmicks and take, and I am in a spiritual, so I am not want to do those gimmicks and all that create all that things. So, but still I am affected by the injustice happen and how to deal with it.
Injustice, that's a good word. So injustice, the idea of injustice, I would say that is an extension of the belief that existence should be fair. But existence is not fair. Existence is abundant, is not fair. Fairness and justice is a completely human concept. In life, in existence, there is no question of fairness. A volcano that needs to erupt erupts. A tsunami that needs to hits. A storm that needs to come comes. Yeah? And a scorching sun. So it's about abundance, it's not about justice. Justice is a human concept. So if you want justice, which is understandable from the human part of your manifestation, then you need to decide how you want to deal with injustice. It's up to you. So if you feel that some stuff is done to you which is unfair and unjust, then you need to deal with it. So day-to-day life, you need to deal with it. So if you need a lawyer, you find a lawyer. It's like, for example, yeah. But that's your choice, because for example, no, for me, like I went through something similar at some point. For what I assumed I have understood about what you said, and I decided, you know what? Yeah, what is happening is not fair. It doesn't fit with my idea of what would be a just way of dividing, for example, wealth and all these kind of things. But I'm not going to fight. My sanity and my peacefulness is more important than having more money in the bank or justice, But I can also do the opposite. Sometimes you can say, no, I want to completely fight and I'm going to fight until the end. Then my invitation is, if you fight, really fight totally. Don't fight half, Because, it's about totality. It's about being total with yourself. So you can say tomorrow, I put myself completely in there. Of course, you are not sure that you're going to win or lose, but, you are in peace because you've been total and you've been really giving yourself your best possibility. So otherwise, yes, we need to deal with what from the society, human cultural level is called injustice. But also remember, Indica, that what you consider unjust, other people would consider absolutely just. Right? So that's important, because otherwise we say, no, justice is my point of view and their point of view is not just. But it's a question of points of view. Every point of view is part of the truth. There isn't a point of view that everything is the truth, but not that point of view. The truth is all there is. So it includes every point of view, every perspective, every opinion, every judgment, every misunderstanding, every contradiction, every paradox, everything. So remember that you are right, but also the others are right from their point of view. Otherwise, you're gonna have to struggle. Look, you have to fight all your life, and that's very tiring. Okay, let me go back to gallery, because I think we are at the end. So, my friends, thank you for being here. And I really enjoyed your company and the opportunity to be my crazy mad myself. And it's beautiful to see you. And again, to come to that place where nothing is known. No, nothing. It's so beautiful when I relax into, I know nothing. And it's great. And I know that you know too that place of absolute relaxation where there is nothing to do, nothing to know, nothing to understand, nothing to fight for. And yet also the fact that sometime in the world, yes, we fight, we struggle. And that's part of growing up. is part of participating. Sometimes when I do my body surfing, the waves are too strong and I need somehow to fight a little bit with it. But then the real moment of pleasure and joy is when I completely surrender. And then the wave takes me where I don't even know where I'm going. So that's how it is. So, my friends, thank you so much. Thank you, Amritanand, for
Thank you,
all.
Avikal. Thank you, everyone. And we'll have a recording on our website. So if you want to revisit
Yes.
later, yeah, we'll have it there.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm going to be very Italian. Wow, wow, kisses and hugs. Bye, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Amritanand.
Thank you. Bye.
Great host.
We'll do this again, Avikal.
Yes, whenever you want.
Thank you.
Bye.
Learn from people. Meet people. Mix with people. With as many people as possible. Because each person expresses a different facet of God.